You're listening to Parasearcg Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearcg Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearcg UK Radio.
Hello everybody, how are you all? Feels like ages since I've been on here chatting live with you people. Yes, it's Penny from Parasearcg Radio, and more specifically Haunted Histories on Parasearcg Radio. I am back from my week away up north in North Yorkshire, and I had a wonderful time with the family. And if anyone does want to go to North Yorkshire and want some places to go and see, give us a shout and I'll let you know some of the ones that, well, I think were interesting and were well worth it. I know that Kerry mentioned on the live on Monday, wasn't it, that I went to a church, but it was actually the church where my great-great-grandparents are buried, and we actually got to have a meal in the pub that's right next to it. And the landlady of the pub was telling me they used to hold the wakes for the church in there and all that kind of thing. So, hi Sam! So there's quite a good chance that my family may have gone to that church at some point. Hi Ness! Wow, the sisters are coming in the house. I shouldn't really sort of talk for too long, should I? If the sisters are all coming in, they want to hear their fellow sisters talk. So I'm going to introduce them for you. We have Lisa.
Hello.
And we have a bit of a Paulie Croaky Joe.
Hi.
See what I mean? Paulie Croaky Joe. She's putting it on. She's fine, really. She just doesn't want to talk to. And I know anyone who knows Joe will go, she doesn't want to talk? Really?
Oh no.
But that's what she said. She said she doesn't want to talk too much.
I've talked too much already today.
Have you talked to her? Have you been shouting at the boys?
No, I had 3 phone calls today, which means I had to talk to some human beings.
Oh, don't you hate it when that happens?
I know.
One was me.
I know. And one was Sam.
Sam is in the chat room, so be careful.
First thing in the morning as well.
Wow. Mine's from because I've been shouting at my kids, which I was doing this morning, but yeah, then I had to do that work thing during the day and talk to clients and stuff and be all happy and positive. But I was happy and positive because I knew I was talking to 2 of my fellow sisters tonight, even though apparently they are a little bit nervous. They're a little bit nervous, apparently. You'd think they're scared of me or something.
Oh no, not scared of you.
Not scared of me. What are you scared of then?
Being live on the radio, maybe?
Being live on the radio. Well, how is it different to just chatting on the phone?
I've got to talk.
You've got to talk. Well, don't you talk on the phone?
Yeah, but there's only you and the other person listening.
That you know of. I dial into people's calls, and you get, when you're calling though, and you suddenly hear another voice like chipping in, and you're like, why is it always late at night when that happens? Always late at night when you seem to get cross lines. But we're not actually going to be talking about weird phone calls or spying on people or anything like that. We're going to be talking about a place that I got to investigate with the sisters, and it's not just you guys. I mean, we've got 2 more of the sisters in the house at the moment. We've got Sam and Ness listening.
Hi Sam, hi Ness.
We've also got who else have we got? Who's another sister who I met? We've got Kathy, shy and retiring Kathy. Wow, that woman has some energy. It's amazing. Who else did we have there? We had Lucy. We had Caroline. What other sisters did we have there that night?
Who else was there that night?
I can't remember who was there. It was
2 of your boys were there, Joe.
Steffi and Sammy, were they there?
No.
No.
I'm sure it was
Karen.
Lucy.
No.
Yeah, I said Caroline. Sam. Caroline was there. Steph? No, I don't remember meeting a Steph or a Sammy that night.
No, Sharon, no. It would
Caroline and Lucy then.
Yeah,
Ned,
and then two of your
was
boys,
there.
Joe, were there.
And
my daughter.
Oh, of course, Summer was there, wasn't she?
Yeah.
who you
Yeah.
was
Gorgeous
London
Summer,
with.
who I was teaching how to do squats and deadlifts.
Yes. Yeah. Like you do.
Like you do. Well,
As you do.
I can't help it. If a girl says to me she wants to lift weights properly, I'm going to get her doing it because it's something all women should do. And how's she getting on with that? Is she able to walk, or is she still sore?
She's doing all right. She's away this week, so she's not at the gym this week. But yeah, she's doing all right. She's taking all your advice on board.
Well, tell her if she doesn't, I'll come and train her one day and see how she gets on.
Fair enough.
She won't be able to sit down. That sounds a lot worse than it's meant to, but honestly, when you've done squats properly, you can't sit down without groaning as you go down. It's quite fun. But the place we're talking about is a place called Bromham Mill. Now, Bromham is would you class it as a village or a town?
It's a village.
It is classed as a village.
Yeah.
It's quite a large village, though, isn't it? It is quite a large
now,
village.
yeah. It's growing.
In Bedfordshire. How far is it from Bedford?
Literally 2 miles.
Oh, right, so it's close to Bedford. And this is the place we went to, and I was lucky enough it was beginning of May, actually, to investigate it with the team. It was this old mill. The building that's currently there, it was built around the 1850s. But what was mind-blowing to me is when I started researching it after the event, they can trace back there being a mill on that bit of the river, so pretty much a mill there, since the Doomsday Book in 1068. So there's been some kind of mill on that river for 1,000 years, all told. And this is going to be interesting. This is something I want people to remember as we go talking. But the mill would have originally been owned by the manor. So whoever owned the manor owned the mill, because one of the mill's jobs was to grind the corn for the local manor. So the manor of Bromham. Is there still a manor house in Bromham?
There is in the park, yeah, right. But it's sort of separated off into apartment type flats at the moment.
Oh right, so it's not one big
no,
one big house.
I think it's still a family that own the whole house, but I think they rent off parts of it. Yeah,
because I think I looked up and it's a Trevor Wingfield, I think, who's meant to still own it, or something like that. But
okay,
I think that's what it said when I was looking up the ownership history, because it has gone through quite a few different owners in the last, you probably imagine, in the last 1,000 years. So, what? How did you first sort of get Bromham Mill? What was the impetus behind getting it to investigate there? Because a mill isn't somewhere most people would automatically think of as being an interesting location.
No, well, I've lived in the village for about 27 years, and always known it. Never sort of walked around it. Never been in it up until probably last year. Used to take the kids down there to walk around the outside and things. Yeah. And I was actually walking in the park, which is at the back of the mill, chatting to one of the guys about paranormal things one day, and he said, "Have you ever been in the mill?" I said, "No." He said, "You ought to try investigating there. There's a lot of history. Not just the mill, but obviously the whole village, the land, where all of it." So I went to the parish council who own it, and just went from there. We took one night, and it sold out within 36 hours. So I went back up to the parish and said, "Can I provisionally book another night?" Which then sold out in 2 hours.
Wow.
And then booked another one, which then sold out. So we had 3 nights booked, complete sellout, because not just local people, but there are an awful lot of local people that wanted to do an event.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't want to travel. And we just went from there.
Bedford as well, isn't it? Because we all know the villages, and I think a lot of Bedford residents, they know of Bromham Mill and everything. So, quite a lot from Wootton and Bedford and Kempston sort of come as well, sort of surrounding areas, so it was really good.
I must admit, it is nice when I get to do an investigation that is only say an hour away maximum, because you're not quite so exhausted when you get home. And I know the best one for me that I've done was Highlands House in Chelmsford, because I was home within 13 minutes from when it finished, which, from 3 o'clock in the morning to then be home within 13 minutes and hit your bed, it's not as bad as a 2.5, 3 hour drive.
I was home in 2 minutes.
Oh, shush you.
Oh, well, apart from the time you forgot your key.
I did lock myself out one night, so that took a bit longer.
Don't.
But
I've not actually done that before, but there was one. I was getting home at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and my husband had left the key in the other side of the door, so I couldn't actually get in. So I slept in my car for 3 hours under a pile of coats that I found in the boot until until I saw lights going on in the house, because I didn't really want to wake him and the kids up by banging on the door.
No.
So that wasn't my fault. He left the key, so he's not done it since, because I kind of I got a bit arsey with him for doing it. But there you go. But I think what did it take me to get home? I think it was just under 2 hours.
Right.
It took me to get back from there, which isn't too bad. I've done worse in one night. So did it actually have any... And Ness is showing off, saying she was home in 25 minutes from it. Shut up, Ness. I tell you what, when you get to do
girl.
Well, when she does somewhere like Kelvedon Hatch or I don't know, Landguard Fort or somewhere like that, and I'm home in less than an hour, after sort of 40 minutes from doing those, and she's still on the road, I'm going to be sending her messages. So I love you really, Watsy. You're fine in a dress. Ness in a dress. I'm going to get facetious. She did look gorgeous, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Beautiful Ness in a dress.
She did look gorgeous. Sam's saying it was an hour and a half for you. Yeah, I'm just a little bit more than that, Sam, so I feel your pain on that one. She did look gorgeous in that dress. She's telling me to shush now. I don't think we should. I think Ness in a dress looked really nice. I think
we got a photo, haven't we, somewhere?
I think, I got a blurry one of her running past me, going, hi, 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 as she ran past me to get changed. I think it would make a good children's book. Ness in a dress. The heroine, Ness in a dress. Ness in the dress to the rescue. Yeah. Yeah, she is gonna start putting facetious messages on the chat page now. I can actually picture what she's doing. She'll have her head in her hands going, no.
Oh, bless her. Bless Ness.
Our lovely.
Oh my God! Don't even, girls.
Oh, don't. We've been all through that. We've been through all the Nesses.
But has it got any stories of being haunted at all? That you know, like village myths?
Well, there's been another team in, but I didn't do any reading up on it because, to be honest, we didn't want to know anything, and I still haven't read up on it, so I have no idea whether anybody else found anything.
I mean, more sort of, when you live in a village, there's like Chinese whispers go around about places. Like certain places is where it used to be the old one where they used to say the witch lived in that cottage.
Yeah.
Are there any stories like that about the mill?
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
Boring.
Yeah, sorry.
You need to start one.
Yeah.
Oh, we can now, can't we?
You can.
Ness in a dress.
Ness in a dress. The ghost of Ness in a dress. Yeah. She was running in her dress and tripped over, and that still haunts the place now. Yeah. We'd have so much fun starting some rumours off, I tell you. Well, funny enough, I couldn't find any real stories of hauntings, so it is a real unknown one in that respect, which is what makes it so cool. That you've got no sort of preconceptions.
No, exactly.
Around it. But what I also found from investigating it with you guys is that you said, and no, Ness, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop about the dress because you looked really nice in it, and you need to understand that. If you looked awful in it, I wouldn't be saying this.
Yes, do as you're told, Ness.
Yeah, Ness, stop it.
Naughty Ness.
If you looked awful, we wouldn't be talking about it. It's because you look so nice that we keep mentioning it.
If she looked awful, I would have blocked her on Facebook, to be truthful.
Oh, that is harsh. Oh, that is harsh. Anyway, Anyway, so when I did the walk around, I think it was with you, Joe, wasn't it? You were saying this bit was quite active last time. Hi, Lucy. This bit, Lucy's in the house.
Hi, Luce.
I'm having to relay these back because the girls won't be able to see the chat page whilst they're on air, so it's not me going completely nuts. I have to relay these messages back to them, otherwise they don't get to see them. And Ness has just said, "Oh my God, Joe, that you would have blocked her if she'd looked."
Well, take it as a compliment.
Exactly, that's what I'm telling her. She's not listening, is she? Anyway,
take it as a compliment.
Look, she made me cry by paying me a compliment. I'm just trying to, get her back. Anyway, let's be serious again for a few minutes. I'm going to try this.
Sorry.
So when it's all right. Hey, are you being more relaxed now we're being silly?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So try not to cough.
Don't worry about coughing. I've told you, coughing's fine. Belching and hiccuping is the thing that sounds weird in my headphones. Just don't die, because the sirens, the 999 ambulance sirens, would really
I'll just get the board
havoc.
out quick.
Final message. Loch Ness.
Loch Ness.
Anyway, we were doing a walkabout. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and you were telling me certain areas that had been very, very active last time, and they weren't so active when I went round with you. And that was one of the things I find interesting about places, is that it can be 6 one half the other. Sometimes the same place is always very active, and other parts it isn't. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is that Kerry Greenaway, our wonderful Parasearch evil queen herself, she has this theory about water, in that water can actually create almost like a trigger. And obviously there's a lot of water there. There's a river literally that runs pretty much underneath the mill. And it's, well, I was saying, I was thinking about it, I was finding it interesting that the water ain't going to change direction, but it's going to but different places were active. So I remember you saying before, and I don't know what you'd call the room, but it was the one up the top that has a lot of the crafts for sale, has the big long table down the middle. I know that Joe, you said
room.
Pardon?
The craft room.
Is that what it's called, the craft room? You said that one was quite active when you were there last time.
It was, yeah.
But it wasn't as active this time, just gone.
No. To be fair, I think Lucy scared it away from the last time. Whatever it was that was in there, she was keeping it at bay, so I think she actually scared it away.
Okay. Well, why did she scare it away? What did she do?
Doing her demonology stuff.
I was doing the transfiguration that night, and I think she thought it was safer to keep this entity at bay, so she sat in the corner and just kept an eye on proceedings. Right. Not sure what she did. Wasn't interested in what she did, to be fair, as long as she kept it away from me.
So you think it was a negative entity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it was negative as in it wasn't formally human, or do you think it was basically a human spirit that was just pissed off?
Yeah, Lucy called it an elemental.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was an elemental. It was a naughty elemental. Okay. All right. Well, we did pick up stuff in that bit when we were there, and it's one of the guests. I think her name was Manda. Was getting shoved around. Yeah. Like she was a rag doll, if I remember rightly. Yeah. And whatever it was that was shoving her was very, very attached. I don't mean necessarily spiritually attached, but attached to her. It wasn't doing it to the rest of us. No. In that
She lives in the village as well.
Right.
Literally closer than me. So a minute.
Now, was she there before? Or was that her first visit?
Was that her first visit?
That was her first.
Yeah, it was her first one. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not that she could have gone and something's been brought in with her, or before it was her first time there.
That was her first one. Yeah.
Okay.
At the mill.
Okay. Now this was strange because Manda wasn't. She was quite tall. I mean, I found that out to my cost when I ended up doing the hokey cokey with her in another part of the building. Ness has just said yes, she had come before. But it was weird that this, whatever it was literally just knocking her legs out. Like she was drunk, basically. It did look like she'd suddenly got drunk. And if I remember rightly, at that point, Sam was picking up on someone called John, I think. And she was picking... She said the name John was coming into her head, and something about rope. Remember the ropes, or something to do with rope. Lucy's just said you can show Penny the pic if you want. Does that make sense?
What pic?
Lucy's...
Oh,
right. Manda...
Well, I can't now, can I? Because we're talking to you.
No, we can't do it right now. But she's put you can show Penny the pic if you want. So I'm
not with it. I went to find it then to show you. God.
It was Manda's second time there. Ness was right. We were wrong. Manda's just messaged me to say it was her second time.
Oh, sorry, Manda.
Sorry, Manda. We got it wrong. I couldn't remember.
Okay. Well, at least I know Manda's listening, so I've got to be nice about her. Only joking. Only joking. Right, so she was getting shoved around like she was a rag doll, basically. And at that point, I think Sam had said she was picking up on a John or something, and then she started saying to me John Williamson. Those kind of names were the ones coming to her. Do you remember saying this? Yeah. Well, that was one of the pieces of homework that Sam gave me to see if I could find any link to a John Williams or a John Williamson.
Okay.
There. Well, I couldn't find a John Williams or a John Williamson. But what I did find was William Biggs was the tenant owner, whatever the term would be, and in 1799 he passed it on to his son, John William son.
Right. Yes.
John William's son. Lovely.
Now, some of the accounts I found of John was I would say he was not a very nice person, but he was quite bullish and did what he wanted to do, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So he could have been quite pushy, and he could have been quite sort of, this is my territory, based on some of the descriptions I found of John Biggs.
Right.
Don't know him, don't know for definite, but I did say he was William's son, and his name was John.
Yeah. Right.
So that was one of the things that I found, and that's historically true. It's historically accurate, which I thought was quite...
Manda's just messaged me to say that she did some digging about and found out there was a Maria Williamson married into her family back in 1803.
Okay.
Which
so it could be
I didn't know about, so
yeah,
just message me that.
Yeah, it was the fact that I found quite a few Williamsons, but it was the John part of it as well. I mean, there's different ways you can interpret evidence. There's so many different ways, but it would fit that John, who was William's son, was in the mill at that point. Because I think if I remember rightly, I can't remember, I might be wrong here, it could have been Ness sort of said she could feel something in the doorway, or someone said they could feel something quite large in the doorway, and he was meant to be quite an imposing guy. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, I had Sam come over all peculiar with me, didn't I? She had some strange thing going on and started having a go at me.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Oh, we're talking about in the house.
Yeah.
We've not got to the house yet.
I'll
not got to the house yet. We're going to talk about the house. Oh, you've just talk about a plot spoiler. Yeah, because we didn't know what happened in that, so I'm going to be interesting to hear about that one, because we were stuck in that other room. All we could hear was it going on. We didn't know what was happening.
No,
anyway,
that's right. Yeah.
So that's in the main part of the mill. Now, one of the other things that tell me some of the other experiences you've had in the main part of the mill.
When we first did Joe and I went down to have a look, and we did a walk around before we'd even investigated there, and we were definitely followed by something, weren't we? Because we heard a deep, that sort of noise behind us as we walked through the craft room into the next part.
Yeah.
There was definite movement in that corner. That was just on the walk around.
Yeah, and that had a really horrible feeling at that particular time, didn't it?
Yeah, we felt really uneasy in there.
As if he was being watched.
Right.
But then when we went back for the investigation, it felt totally different all over again, didn't it?
Yeah.
But we had some good activity down the bottom there, just by the stairs, where the water was loud. Obviously, thinking the water was the energy, building the energy as well. We did Ouija board down there. That was very interesting. I had a lot of movement on that. I did an energy circle asking for arms to be lifted, which it did. I do question that, whether it's
psychological,
the power of the mind, but it's always a good experiment to do. What was interesting is we got the arms being lifted one at a time and then coming down one at a time with names, so each name, and that was male and female, because sometimes the men are like, oh no, I can't feel anything, it's utter rubbish. But one of the guys was actually my neighbour. He just couldn't get his arms down. Again, not somebody that's impressionable, I wouldn't say.
He was quite sceptical as well, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think
he was.
He just came because it was local and just sort of going and have a look, but he was very sceptical. So he was, that was interesting.
Okay, so has the main part of the mill ever scared you?
Toilet does.
No, not me.
But then toilets always scare me.
Okay, I have to ask why.
Oh, when you go to the toilet, you've got to lock the door so no one comes in. And obviously, if you've got your bits around your ankles and something shows itself,
you're vulnerable.
You're vulnerable, and you can't really run out with everything around your ankles, can you? So it's a little bit nerve-wracking. So I usually take Lisa in with me, or sings outside the door to me.
I think, interestingly enough, actually being serious, people forget the washrooms and the restrooms and the toilets when they're investigating.
Oh, they scare me.
I know that when I was at Bodmin Jail recently, Kirsten there said, don't forget about the toilets, because where they are in the area of the prison is where the new prisoners would have been received in to be processed. And we had taps turning themselves on and doors opening by themselves and all that kind of thing. So there was quite a few people when I did that one with Richard Estep and his crew wouldn't go on their own. They wanted other people to go with them. I didn't find them scary, but I mean, I had, when I was, where was it? It was Gresson Hall Workhouse, and it was those old style toilets with the long chain.
Yeah.
But it was miles above my head. I wasn't touching it. There was no breeze, and all of a sudden the chain just started swinging in a circle, like circling above my head. And I was sort of looking at it, and it was almost like a pendulum, and I just sort of looked up and I went, and I was like, yeah, can you let me finish first? And it just stopped dead. It just stopped dead. I was thinking, okay, all right. And that's when I asked them, what were these rooms, what were the loos before? And it was where the elderly couples quarters would have been. So I was basically having a wee in somebody's living room. So I can understand why they were a bit annoyed. But people,
I wouldn't be too happy.
No. But people do forget about those sort of areas. It's like what people use as the rec rooms when they're doing investigations.
Yeah.
People forget about those areas, and I've sometimes been I've quite happily been left on my own in one of them, and the stuff that started happening is it because people don't they're going into the quiet, dark areas. They don't forget about the areas that they've all just been sitting in for 20 minutes, all that adrenaline pumping and all that energy coming off them. So yeah, I kind of do get what you're saying, and I get what you're saying about the vulnerable thing, but then again, Joe, you've got kids. You know what it's like when you're having a wee and you suddenly hear the kids trying to kill each other, and you have to get your trousers up really fast before blood hits the carpet.
No, I just let them get on with it.
Oh, do you? Oh, and you see, I'm sick of trying to get blood out of the carpet, so I do try and intervene before it gets to that stage. So as we were saying, the mill itself, it can be traced back to the Doomsday period. So there has been at least one mill in Bromham since then, possibly two. Not surprising, really, because it was a lot bigger river back in those days. It had a lot more power to it, and water was used as energy, well, if you like, industrial energy, for want of a better term. And it was used to float things along to get them from one place to another. They were the olden day roads, sort of thing, natural roads. But one of the areas we got to go in at the mill, which, correct me if I'm wrong, has never been investigated before.
No, that's right.
Was the miller's cottage.
Yeah.
Bugger me, that place had energy to it.
Yeah.
That place had energy before we even got in there.
I'm going to... Holy shit moment, that one. I mean, it looks spooky. It's semi-derelict. You've got... Bits of the ceiling have fallen in. I mean, you've got cracked window panes. If you could have a haunted house...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of a Blair Witch house, isn't it? It's one of those strange, bizarre places.
Very odd energy in there.
Very, very. I mean, it really was. And that place started... Yes, Penny did swear, Ness. Penny does actually swear quite a lot, believe it or not. Penny does.
Swear?
I did. I said, holy shit.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I don't say certain words on air, but there's a few that... I think that place is a holy shit type place. I mean, I was lucky enough to get there early with you guys and to walk around and everything. And we had an experience the minute we walked up the stairs.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, you and I did, Joe. It was you, wasn't it, who was with me when we heard... almost like a groaning sort of sighing sound from behind us, wasn't it? It was a man.
Yes. Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, even before, when we was sorting this place out and we was over at the mill trying to get keys for it, they was giving us all sorts of keys to try and get into there to have a look round. And the final sort of set of keys she gave to us, and I actually approached the... side door with them, and before I even got to the door there was 3 knocks from the other side of the door. So I just legged it. I said to Lisa, as far as I'm concerned, the key don't work, we're not going in there today. So it was already they were already making their presence known to us. It was just so bizarre, and we could hear things as well when we was trying other keys. You could hear shifting in there
behind the front door. We didn't know that door actually doesn't open at all, but we were trying the keys in any door trying to get in that day, and there was movement behind the front door. It was shuffling,
and that's at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just really freaky,
because your initial thought was maybe there were squatters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that was because when we got down there, somebody had broken a window pane, so I had to get the...
But that was after. That was after.
That's when we thought there were squatters as well. It was
secure when we tried to go in there, but the day before we was due to go in, we sort of wandered over there and said, let's just make sure that these keys from the council do work. And a couple of windows had been popped open. So, of course, then our initial fear was that there was someone living...
like humans.
...walking around in there. But there wasn't, and there was no sign of anyone that had been in there at all. So that was a real, just a little bit odd as well. But
this house, it would be an amazing house. I mean, it's huge. It's huge, the size of the bathroom. I could hold a party in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it would be an amazing house, but whether it is the psychological thing of the fact it is sort of half fallen down, or whether there is generally something, there's not been any positive energies in there for a very long time, I don't know. But it did have a kind of a, this could potentially be a horror story type feel to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared in there. The only thing that freaked me out...
It's got a vibe.
It's got a vibe. The only thing that genuinely freaked me out was the fact the loft is completely open. There was no loft hatch. And I could hear something rustling around up there. And it was the thought of like bats or something suddenly flying down on my head that freaked me out, because I don't like things that fly at me. But apart from that, there was nothing... It just felt ominous. It just felt...
There was no nice energy in there. There was nowhere to say, I feel comfortable in this room. There was none of that.
No, not at all.
It sort of puts you on edge.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed about working with you guys as a team is you did things that I've never done before. And focusing a lot on spirit circle work is not something I've really done with other groups, which I found really, really interesting. So focusing more on the spiritual side. Also, we're going to talk about transfiguration as well, because that was quite an interesting experience, especially as I got pushed forward to be one of the guinea pigs, which is fine, thanks Ness. But
in a dress,
yes, Ness in a dress. I'm sure that's why she pushed me forward, because she knew she was going to get hammered for that for eternity afterwards. But anyway, she'll nominate me to go down into a cellar on my own next or something, most likely. But as you were saying, Sam sort of had a bit of a funny turn in there, Joe. Was it with you, Joe?
Yeah. It was really weird, because we was doing an energy circle and I could just feel this presence behind me. But it was a really negative presence, and when I eventually looked round, it was Sam.
Right.
And Sam isn't quite as tall as me, but this particular time she just looked extra short and extra wide, and she was just staring at me, and it was like, oh, here we go, she's gone into one. And just this awful, she just had this awful negative energy with her. And she was accused me of all sorts of being disrespectful, and not me. We found out after that it wasn't actually me that was being disrespectful. Whoever she was seeing me as someone else that had been disrespectful, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like a past life sort of thing. But I mean, that was actually caught all on camera. Lucy filmed that, and it's actually on the Paranormal Sisters page. The film that was edited, but it was just it was one of those moments where I couldn't take my eyes off of Sam, because I didn't know whether she was going to lunge for me and strangle me at that particular time. And then obviously you're worrying about Sam, because obviously she's got a spirit that has got that close to her to affect her that way. So yeah.
Well, Sam's just said she can't actually remember it.
No, well, she wouldn't do. She wouldn't have done. Because when she does possessed, I always say she's getting possessed. Because obviously she's a medium, so she's open to all sorts of spirits, and she does let them come close. And we do have to keep a close eye on her when that sort of happens, because it can be really, really quite scary to sort of watch. And thankfully it was on film for her to sort of look back and see exactly, but her eyes had gone black, and just really, really, it's not as if we hadn't seen Sam do that before, but when you've got someone sort of breathing down your neck, and I knew Sam was there, but it didn't feel like Sam was there, and it was someone else. That was quite a strange one.
Well, as Ness pointed out, the reason we couldn't come through to find out what was going on is a load of us were on our knees at that point, because whatever was in the room with us had started shoving a load of us onto our knees. And I was one of the early...
That was you, me, Ness, Manda, Summer. We were all down.
There was another young girl with blonde hair. It wasn't Summer. It was... sure, she'd come with Manda. Dear, I can't remember her name now.
Emma was Emma with Manda? Oh, it was Georgia. It was Manda's
Georgia,
daughter.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Manda's daughter.
Yeah, and it was literally, you got your legs just... It was... again, it could have been some kind of psychological suggestion type thing. Yeah. But I remember with me, my legs just felt like they'd got kicked out from under me because I got pushed over. Yeah.
That's never happened to me before.
I've been shoved on more than one occasion. But I've never had my legs taken out from underneath me. So, and it wasn't nasty. It didn't feel nasty. No. It was more playful. Like, all right, you want me to do it? All right then.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't sort of. And I do wonder why it was picking on all the women, but maybe it was because the women were more sensitively susceptible. I'm not really sure.
You had Owen with you, didn't you? And he was the only one male in with you. He said he was the only one sort of left standing.
He was literally holding me up at points. Yeah,
he did say his knees felt like jelly, but he sort of forced himself just to stay up because that in his head that's how he was seeing it. That it was a
mind over matter
sort of subconscious sort of thing. So he sort of see it in a different way and sort of force yourself to stay up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, Sam was saying that in that whole area she felt someone who felt almost like an executioner of types, because that's one thing she asked me to look up, and I personally couldn't find any executioners associated with Bromham or Bedford, but then again, executioners used to either be criminals who would get a pardon if they executed another criminal, which seems very harsh, but it's what happened to Dick Turpin. He was executed by a highwayman who got a pardon for executing him and got let off being executed himself. Right. Or they travelled, like the Pier Points and those kind of things, sort of mid-last century. So I couldn't actually find any links to an execution. Not to say there wasn't, but I couldn't find those links when I was looking it up. But the other thing that happened in there is when I was saying about doing the hokey cokey, because again, even in that room, Manda, the lady who'd been getting shoved around in the craft room, was getting affected in there, and whatever it was kept lifting her arms up, and I was holding her hand, so of course my arm started being lifted as well. Yeah. And she's quite a bit taller than me. I'm only short, and it was lifting her arm all the way up. I was literally dangling off her shoulder.
Oh, I've had that before.
And now that's when I started using mind over matter, because when it started to go again, I was like, no, pick on somebody else. No, pick on somebody else. And the arms didn't move. Yeah. Now, whether it was it's psychological, like we said, or whether it was like, all right, don't want to play anymore, fine. But it was hurting my shoulder. It was genuine, having to have my arm like literally being pulled out of its socket, so it's as high as somebody else's who's quite a bit taller than me.
I had that at Revesby with Ashley Buckingham, and it's awful because you're literally sort of, you want it to stop because the pain. So this, and this is where I don't really get it. It's, you don't want it to happen, but it's happening. If you know what I mean. And it's just really bizarre because the pain, like if someone's taller than you, or your arms are sort of being pushed backwards and sort of, in a contortion position. It is weird.
Well, after it happened 3 or 4 times, I was starting to get a bit fed up, which is why I kept saying, no, not us, choose somebody else. No, I am not. No, because I thought my shoulder really is starting to hurt now. You've done it enough to me. Well, Manda and me. You pick on someone else, and it did. Yeah. The other thing that Sam and Lucy have sort of said is they were sensitive. Lucy said she kept seeing a meat locker that she doesn't think was animal in it, and Sam was getting the thing that lots of children were hurt there. Now, we were using the Portal app, weren't we, in that room?
Yeah.
And that was producing some quite interesting answers that weren't really open to interpretation. They were kind of direct answers, weren't they?
Yeah, they were very strange.
Tell us about them. Go on, you remember.
Well, the first time I had it on, I was actually with Joe's son Owen, and we were asking if there was anything. We were in the house. First word that came up was evil, which was like, okay. And then, do you know what? I can't remember the next words. I don't know whether Owen would remember. I'd have to ask him.
Owen probably remember, because I've gone a blank.
They were very, very... they were good answers. They were proper answers. They weren't random words.
No.
But it was something about a child that died in bed, and there was an illness, obviously an illness as she died, but it was something along those lines. And I think, did we get a name? Was it Sarah?
Sarah.
Yeah,
Sarah come up all night.
And that kept coming up all night. But that was quite strange. So, we're obviously only trying it now and again. We're unsure of it, but it was, the words that were coming up were in direct answer to what we were asking. So quite impressed with that actually at the time.
I think what amazed me, and I'll say this, and I say this every time I talk about the portal, once you get over the fact it sounds like Satan himself is trying to talk to you, because that voice is the voice that it comes through as is quite sort of, well, yeah, it does sound like something demonic. The answers you can get when they're firmed up answers are quite, for a gadget, for an app, a Android app, it's pretty spot on. And the fact that I seem to remember, the illness thing, I think we ascertained that he had killed his wife had died.
That's right.
His wife had died giving birth.
That was when we were in the other room, wasn't it?
That was the room that we got pushed to our knees in.
Yeah.
His wife had died giving birth, and that he had killed his other child or something. But he blamed, to begin with, he was blaming himself for what he said he'd killed his wife, but then it transpired she'd died giving birth, which he felt was his fault because he'd got her pregnant.
That's right. Yeah.
And then a little girl came through, didn't she? You said she said she was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And that she'd died, or Daddy had killed her, or something like that. Something quite sort of sending shivers up your spine.
Yeah.
But as we dug deeper and asked other questions, it wasn't Daddy had killed her because the mum had had TB or consumption, wasn't it? Because it said what was wrong with her, and it said coughing.
Yeah.
On coughing and blood, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think I said, what, consumption? And it was yes. And so she had obviously been very ill when she gave birth. The birth process killed her because she was so seriously ill with TB anyway. And TB is highly infectious, and she'd already passed it on to her older child, who, and I can't remember the questions we asked, but they were direct questions with direct answers. He had killed the older child because he didn't want to see them go through what she had gone through. And so he decided he was a murderer because he'd done that, even though it was kind of a mercy killing, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously couldn't find any trace of that. TB was endemic until, well, the early 1900s, so it's plausible that, and the whole families would contract it. It could even have just been a spirit that somebody had brought in with them that wanted to it didn't have to be inherent in the house.
No.
But it was quite, and nobody was, none of the answers it was giving were sort of, it could have, it's not saying, you're saying, how did you die? Banana. It wasn't, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, they ate a banana and they slipped on the banana skin and broke their neck kind of thing. It was actual, I think we said what was wrong with your wife, or what was wrong with her, and it said cough, blood. Yeah. Or something along those lines, if I remember rightly from my notes. So it was very I think that house has a lot more to give.
Yeah,
there's an awful lot more to find out about it, because it felt quite guarded to me as well. Even though it felt heavy, it felt guarded.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It felt like it needs a bit more energy into it to really give up its secrets.
Yeah. Hopefully next time.
Well, you say next time. You've got a new date booked, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. It's 6th of July.
6th of July.
Yeah, we've rebooked to go back in. So hopefully.
Yeah. 4 weeks away?
Yeah.
Wow. And you're going to get the cottage, hopefully, for that one as well?
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
Brilliant.
fingers crossed. I'm going for that as well.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
Hopefully they're all there waiting, and they can come back and have a chat with us.
Well, all I say is, if you get to go, if you're listening and you've booked a ticket and you've not been before, don't wear your best trousers. Because the floor is dusty, and if you get pushed down on it, yeah, you don't want to wear your best jeans. Lucy's just said she's happy not to go back in there. It's all yours, girls. So,
she'll be going in there.
Lucy, you're worse. You're worse. You're meant to be a demon hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, our evil queen has just joined us. She said she's sorry she's late and she'll listen on catch up.
Oh.
Not really good enough, is it? When she can't listen to one of her station shows. Blimey.
She's missed all the good bits.
She's missed all the good bits. Yeah. She's missed me being nice about her. Anyway, so one of the things that you get to experience when you go on an investigation with the Paranormal Sisters, which is something I'd not actually done before, was transfiguration work. Now, to me, it's almost like being hypnotised. That is kind of how I felt it was. But I was one of the people who got given the chance to be put under. And the main thing, I've had to watch the video to remember what I said, and also read the notes I think you made in my notebook, Lisa, while I was under, because I don't really remember too much of it.
Right.
What I do remember is feeling very pulled and feeling like I had loads of voices like trying to push their way through as I was going under.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was very strange. And I do know it was a little girl that came through in the end. Mm-hmm. Now, you guys would have to tell me, did my face change at all? Did my mannerisms change when I was under?
Yeah, your face changed. Yeah, I mean, in general, that's usually the first indication that a spirit has come close to you. Is your face morphing into something. So yeah, your face definitely changed. Again, that's on the video that's up on the Paranormal Sisters page. So you'll all get to see Penny going under and doing transfiguration, and you can see for yourself on there. See what other people think, but your face definitely changes in transfiguration, and a lot of the time, your mannerisms can change that. I wouldn't say your mannerisms change dramatically, but your face definitely changed, and that, like I say, that's the first sort of indication that there is spirit close, and you're ready.
Well, I know that I had a little girl wanting to talk through me, who called herself Tilda. And I've read the notes, I've watched the video, and I do vaguely remember, and I can actually picture in my head the picture that I was seeing in my head when I was talking. So, and she'd basically said she was from the manor, didn't she? And that she was going to get in trouble because she'd got her dress dirty playing down by the river. So I thought I'd look up. And I'm gonna kind of finish with them because we've got about 6 minutes left. But I thought I would look up if there was a Matilda associated with the manor. So I went back to sort of the 1700s when the bulk of the mill was built, because even though we say the red brick part of it was built in the mid 1800s, there is actually a date stamp of I think 1695 on part of it, and also 1722 inside. But we know that there's been a mill of some sort there since like the 1060s. But initially I went back to the mid-1700s, and I went back through there was Sir Thomas Trevor, the Honourable George Rice, believe it or not, was what he was called. None of them had anything to do with a name called Matilda. So I thought I'd start going further back. And I went back to pretty much the Doomsday Book era. So the rise of William the Conqueror. Now, I knew from history that William the Conqueror's wife, her name was Mathilde, and that Matilda was a French name. But what I found, which was quite interesting, is in sort of the 1060s, when Bromham was first really a proper manor, it had two parts to it. One was owned by someone called Countess Judith, who was, I think she was related to William the Conqueror, and another one was a guy called Hugh de Beauchamp. Now, Countess Judith had 3 daughters. I think she had a son as well, but she definitely had 3 daughters, and one of those daughters was called Godhild, or Godehild. I don't know how it's pronounced, so Hilda. But Hugh de Beauchamp, his wife, was called Matilda. He had a daughter called Maud, who was known as Matilda.
Mm.
Now, if that was her coming through, she lived to be a grown-up because she got married and everything else, so I don't think Dad did kill her, which I know is one of the questions someone asked me, is did your dad kill you? Or did your dad hurt you? She lived because she married, and I don't know if she had children, I couldn't quite find that out, but she definitely got married, I think twice actually, because her first husband died. But yes, so, and that would have been back in, well, the early 1100s that she would have been there.
Wow.
So there is a link to a Matilda at the manor.
Wow.
Which is quite not that common a name.
No, it's
not. No, not at all. Not in these parts, anyway.
No. So I thought that I only found that out today. I only found that link today. I didn't find it when I was doing all the rest of my homework for Sam, who is a hard taskmaster. She made me work for it. Made me work for my money, I tell you. Yeah, Kerry will know that I enjoy going down a rabbit hole and finding out research. It's quite good fun. But yeah, so I found those links, which I thought were quite interesting.
Right. Yeah, very.
So, if someone wants to book tickets to come on the investigation on the 6th of July, you've got some left?
Definitely,
still?
Yeah, we've just put the event up today. Tickets are starting to sell, but yeah, at the moment, haven't started sort of pushing it hard just yet, but once I do, sort of in the local area, they're going to go pretty quick. So if you want tickets, grab them. And
they're not that expensive, are they?
No, £25 each.
That's a really good price.
Yeah.
For a really interesting part of British history as well.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
And a really good night.
And a good night, I can promise. Yeah, it's a very good night. It's a good night. If you don't go away with your sides hurting and your face hurting from smiling and laughing, as well as being scared out your wits when you're being pushed over, then you've not. You've not tried hard enough.
You've not experienced the Paranormal Sisters.
So before we go, you have actually got a very important event from your alter egos, the Paranormal Charity Warriors, this weekend.
We have,
haven't you? Give it a last minute pitch, girls.
Yeah, it's at the village in Mansfield, raising money for Lipodystrophy UK. My youngest son has the condition. If you go on Paranormal Charity Warriors page, there's a write-up on there, Sean's story, so you can read why we're actually raising money for this rare disease. Loads of raffle prizes. We've got special guests, Lee Roberts, Ryan Griffiths, Peter Cox, so we've got the trio of the Hauntings, Ashley Buckingham from Celebrity Ghost Hunt, and we've also got Katie Jarvis from EastEnders, who played Hayley Slater.
And you've got a raffle.
And we've got a raffle. Brilliant raffle. Yeah, so yeah, come and join us. Those tickets are also, they're only £25 each.
Amazing.
We've got an amazing book in the raffle as well, signed by the author.
Absolutely. Brilliant book.
Has Mike Cavell donated a book?
We've got a few surprises planned for Saturday night as well. We're going to do a few different things.
Nice.
So if you want to find out what we're up to,
ladies.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Well, that's an hour. You've been talking for an hour. Was it that bad?
No, it was fine.
Told you you'd be all right. I take care of my guests.
You do.
I take care of my guests.
We never have a problem once we're on. We're absolutely fine.
No, most people don't. Most people don't. Well, that's it, guys. That's been Joe and Lisa from the Paranormal Sisters talking all about, well, I think we could have probably talked about a few more things to do with Bromham Mill. If you want to listen in about what the village is going to be like this weekend, just listen to Haunted Histories from last week, because we did a show on it for you. You know, we care and we share. What can I say? So on that note, I'll be back next week at 9:00. There's shows on every night during the week that you can listen to, and if you miss one, don't worry, you can always go back and listen to it again. But from Joe,
bye.
From Lisa,
bye-bye.
And from me, Penny G. Morgan, it's been a privilege talking to you all here on Haunted Histories. Have a good evening, sleep tight, and don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearcg Radio.